Hello, 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 hello. I am loving this chat networking that's going on. I have to say that the front row is really close to the stage, and I'm here for that. It's really cool. Oh, hello, you. What time do you call this? The perfect time. That's what you call it. Brilliant. So happy to see everybody. I feel like it's a long time since we had the last Design System London, but I always say that because I don't think that we have them often enough. Okay, we just take drinks, grab food, take a seat for those of you who haven't. In the meantime, I'm going to get us started. Welcome. That's what I should have started with. Welcome to DSL, to Design System London number 12. Which is a dozen. I know, right? Not just a pretty face, brains and all. Super excited to be here. So thank you so much to the FT for this fantastic venue. And thank you to all of you to see you again. So I'm going to ask, has anyone been to DSL before? If you've been before, put your hand up, right? Okay, quite a few people. Who here then, by logic, is the rest of you first timers? Come on, let's see first timers. Fantastic. Do you know what? That's a really good mix. Let's continue with my impromptu market research. I know. How many designers do you have in here today? Call you like designers. Okay, cool. And do you all design, or do you just have that as a title? I see you. I'm one of those people. It's my title. I do something sometimes. How many engineers do we have in here? A few, not too bad. I'm glad to see that as well, because we all know that design system is the love child of design and engineering together. She doesn't believe me, but good. I love that. That is fantastic. Do you have any product people here? Yes. That's what I want to see. So I'm a strong believer in the trinity between design, engineering, and product when it comes to design system. So I'm glad that we have everyone represented. Now that I've been rambling on for ages, let's actually do the introduction. So as I said, welcome to Design System London, number 12. Who am I? The mad person on stage. So my name is Louise, and I'm head of product design at YLD. I am the proud presenter and host of Design System London, and I have been for a long time now, actually for 12 events. We were online for a while as well. Did anybody ever see our online events? Did somebody? Wow. Oh my God. This is like fantastic. Okay, this one. Did anyone ever go to the conference? No one went. Oh! Somebody went to the conference. Do you know what? I can finish here. This is fantastic. We got conference, we got online, we got designers, we got engineers, we got product people. This is awesome. So in that case, most of you should know that Design System London is ultimately a community for anyone who wants to learn more about design system or talk about their design system challenges, or just want to have a therapeutical session about design systems and wanting to understand that they are not alone with their struggles or their issues, or maybe get inspiration on how other people solve similar problems. We are a community that welcome speakers of all levels. So we welcome first-time speakers. If so, anyone here thinking, do you know what, I would love to be on stage and talk about my experimentation with design systems, you should. We have a form that you can use. If you are a seasoned speaker that has traveled the world and amazed people with your fantastic insights across the globe, you are equally welcome to join us as well. And for anybody who feels like this venue is nice, but wait till you see our venue and you want to host design systems, then there is a form for that as well. See, we come prepared. And so going on to the next one, there is a plug. There's always a plug. So because of this, we have been nominated for the Design System Awards, which I am immensely proud of. So that's very nice. And there is a QR code. Yeah, okay, Sam. There's a link in there. There's many links for many things, but the first link is to vote for your favorite design system events. And what event will that possibly be? Hint, hint. So obviously there are other events as well, but they're not as good as this one. So yes, please, that voting is open until the 3rd of November, or you can do it right away, right now, while the code is right there in front of you. So over to tonight's agenda. I've done the welcome and introductions. We are having 3 absolutely amazing speakers. We actually got representation from design, collaboration, engineering, and from the kind of more product operations management side of design systems. So this should be something for everyone here. We got a little bit of a break after the 2 first talks to consume some more of this delicious food and drinks. And then we come back together again for the last speaker and a joint Q&A, which is all set up for here. So if you have a question for any of the speakers, there is a QR code, which is actually the same QR code as this one, where you can find the Slido deck. This is also where you can vote for the best design system event for the awards. I'm just going to keep on plugging them. But yes, all of the stuff that I have mentioned, if you are interested in hosting, if you're interested in talking, if you're interested in previous events, you can also see them all on YouTube on our design system YouTube channel. So this is basically the one QR code to rule them all, and anything you need throughout the evening should be there. When you ask a question, if I could please ask you to just mention who the person or which speaker the question is for, so we can kind of guide the questions in the right direction. But we are also encouraging live questions in the room. There will be opportunity to put your hand up and take the spotlight for a moment. We welcome that very much. Okay, so these events are not possible without, there you go, that's the stuff that you need. Oh yes, I need to mention social media. Sorry, I forget, because otherwise people don't even know that we exist. So social media, we are on LinkedIn these days. There are other social medias available that we are not as active on anymore. But do follow us on LinkedIn. Also, follow us on Eventbrite so you can see when the next events are. Again, that's the code. And so these events are obviously not possible without the sponsors and the organizers. And we have the organizer today, well, as always, is YLD, and then our sponsor FT. So we are going to hear a little bit from our organizers and sponsors. So I would like to welcome first, we're going to hear from Rebecca from YLD. I'm going to give her the stage. Please.
Hi everyone, I'm Rebecca, a client partner at YLD, and as some of my clients in the room will tell you, I love to talk a lot. So I've made some notes to keep this really short and sweet. I want to talk to you about who we are at YLD, what we do, and why we do it. We're a product design and software engineering consultancy that's been around for over a decade now. Community has always been absolutely central to how we grow and why we do it. So what we do, we turn digital investments into results. We build what matters, deliver with impact, and make sure it lasts beyond our support. Our design, tech, and change teams work as one, using AI where it actually makes a difference. We partner with tech, design, and product leaders to create and refine design systems that solve real challenges and align with business goals. We work with companies across publishing, healthcare, fintech, renewable energy, you name it, the list just absolutely keeps growing. So as mentioned, community is so important to what we do, and it really helps us support our clients where it matters, and design plays a huge part of that. So we put users first, shape solutions that succeed from day one, and leave our clients in a better place than we found them. That means sharing our knowledge and equipping teams with skills that stick. YLD's been leading in design systems since the DSL launched nearly a decade ago. Hands up if you were there. Hey. And hands up if you've worked with a consultancy before. Keep your hands up if you loved working with them. That's what we strive for. That's what we want to achieve at YLD. So we've even had clients in the past where engagements have ended, but we've actually built such strong relationships with their suppliers that we've continued to work with them. And that's the kind of partnership that I'm really proud of. If you want to know more about our projects, starting a project with us, open roles or community events, just chat with me, Louise, or anyone with a Wild D t-shirt. Thank you so much for taking the time this evening to spend with us and enjoy the talks.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. And as I said before, we are at this amazing venue, and this is our host, FT. And I've got to invite someone from FT to come and chat a little bit. Don't be shy. I know you're not. Come on, Tricky.
Oh, excellent. Put that down there. Right. Yeah, hello. Welcome to the Financial Times. I hope you're enjoying the pizza and beer. Think of it as fuel for the evening ahead, because these are always pretty jam-packed schedules with quite a lot of content. I'm Tricky. I'm design manager here at the Financial Times and part of the team that build our design system, Origami. Please do follow us and find out about life at the FT. I should say we're not actively hiring for any design roles at the moment, but Frankie down the front here is looking for a design systems lead. So I'm just going to mention that, put that out there. Come and find her if you're looking for that stuff. Yeah, so you probably know the FT by our sort of coral pink pages and our journalism, but beyond that, we actually have a product and technology team that ship digital products, and that includes not just the sort of B2C product that you probably are familiar with, but also B2B products. And we have a very long list of specialist titles like The Banker, Investors Chronicle. So that's a little bit about us. I did put a few thank yous in here because I thought I'd just get them in early. It's been absolutely incredible working with YLD. So I just want to thank Victoria and Louise. Feel free to clap, that's fine. I also want to thank Mel from Life at the FT and the brilliant team here at Bracken House who have like made you feel very welcome, and all of the people that you've seen in these sort of coral lanyards that have been helping you around. Don't be shy. Great. And yeah, and thanks to the speakers ahead of time. I know what it's like to put together those talks and all the effort that you put into them. That's great. Just a little bit off topic. I was in the Peak District at the weekend. Don't ask how, but I ended up climbing down a waterfall in the rain with my aging Labradoodle on my shoulders. This actually happened. It was quite a sight, but a very British way for me to celebrate my anniversary with my wife. It wasn't planned, it wasn't elegant. Yes, I got some looks, but we got through it with some improvisation. And I couldn't help but think that feels a little bit like working in a design systems team sometimes. So, you know, you hit these unexpected moments. Sometimes the only way forward is together with a bit of patience, trust, and improvisation. I don't need to sell to this room the value of design systems, so I'm not going to. I'm just going to say that in terms of the FT, we're quite early on our journey, and my colleague Mary is going to talk a little bit about that. We're trying to move from what is a component library that's been around for several years to a true design system, one that bridges design and code and makes the right thing the easiest thing to do. Why Design Systems London? I know a lot of you have been to these events before. It just feels like a really great space for creative conversations. I'm sure you'll all agree. So we're just really happy to be affiliated with YLD and this fantastic meetup. I tried to organise this about 2 years ago when I was at my previous role. Some folks from The Guardian who were part of that, they'll remember that. It didn't happen. So this has been about 24 months in the making. They say the best things come to those who wait, or at least Guinness say that. I'm aware that we're going to the pub after, so you can have a pint of Guinness there. Please do that and talk to us. And yeah, and why now? The most important bit here for me is that at the moment, AI is like the hot topic. It's everywhere. People talking about speed, automation, doing more with less. But for me, the sort of kind of progress that really makes a difference still comes from human connection. And so for me, that's about teams sharing problems, building trust, working through stuff together. And that's what this community does best. So, like I said, it's really great to be here, and we're really proud to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Tricky, and thank you for those warm words. And it's got me all like, oof, nice. Okay, on that note, Tricky actually did a very good segue that I just interrupted by coming back on stage. But obviously, he was talking about his team and how they're doing it. And this is where I give away my age, because I need to just read this very quickly. But I'm going to need my glasses for that. We have our first speaker, Mary, and Mary's going to talk about Better Together, building a collaborative design system. I couldn't think of a better topic. Please come on stage.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Louise, for that introduction. As I said, I'm Mary, design systems designer here at the FT. I work closely with Tricky and the Origami team, which is the name of our design system, and then also the designers across the business. So shout out everyone that's here today. Thanks for coming. So today I will be talking about our journey to a federated design system through collaboration. Why collaboration isn't always easy. I want to share some of the tactics that we've employed and the joys that we've had along the way. My hope is that I will leave you here with practical insights on how collaboration can make a team stronger, even when it is always easy. Okay, the challenge. So I'm going to dial things back a little bit. A quick show of hands. Has anyone here ever used an IKEA product or visited an IKEA store? Oh, wonderful. So we would understand the analogy I'm about to make. What makes IKEA business so wonderful, so successful? It's not just about the furniture, right? It's about how they enable everyday creativity at scale. And this applies to our goal as design system here at the FT. The way it translates to us is us being able to build modular components that makes it easier to deliver high quality experiences across our products. Also, IKEA provides step-by-step instructions that guide users to the end product. And for us, what that means is guidance, very clear guidance, easy to use documentation that engineers can work with confidence. Also, with things like accessibility and consistency baked into the design system, second guessing is reduced, and that means that trust is high and adoption is also high. So earlier this year, my partner and I, we moved houses, and then we did, as you can imagine, we did loads and loads of ideation on how we wanted our TV console to look like. And IKEA was a huge partner in that, because we had to look at different variations from what they present and then use that to get to what we have on the screen. And I'm sure that many of us here have been in that position at one point or the other, even if what we ended up with was not exactly what we planned to do. And what does this mean for our design system? With the basics sorted, teams can then tackle the bigger UX problems and create experiences that are better for the end users. This is all good stuff, but what is the reality? So the reality is that at the FT, our design system Origami, we have multiple brands, as Tricky mentioned earlier, and not just the website and the app that we see around, but multiple brands, multiple contexts, and our design system is expected to, serve as much as possible. While that's great for reach, it could stretch a small team really fast. Also, the reality is that we were an engineering-led system, and that means that we had loads of engineering components, storybook components, which is very broadly adopted. But on the flip side, design-wise, I don't know if any of you have this problem, but we had very few Figma components and patterns, and which meant that different product teams did their work in silos. We had to rely on audits and then duplicated efforts across board, leading to also communication gaps, as you can imagine in a big company. Then also, We are a small lean team, and more than half of the team are part-time. So in football terms, you could say that we are funded more like York City rather than Manchester City. And although we do know that we are quite fortunate because plenty of companies don't have dedicated design system teams. What did we do? So the first thing we did was to analyze where we were and where we wanted to be. So at the time, we had loads of web components with an integrated code base and engineering rules. However, we wanted to get to a version which we call Origami 3 that has an equal number of web components and Figma components, and then powered by design tokens for scalability. Then also having an integrated code base with guidelines that then help to build creativity and maintain consistency. So to get to a place where it's no longer just about code, it's now a shared language between design and engineering, and then create standards that people can use and then bring the teams closer. So this difference between where we were and where we wanted to be pushed us to rethink how we collaborate. So realizing that we needed to scale, the first plan was to carry out the migration, to move from the component library to a true design system that is reflected across all of our product areas. And this mattered because we were relying on audits, leading to further drift and also costs. But with the migration, when we make a change in the design system, it just cascades across, leading to fewer errors, then also faster delivery. And then our designers wouldn't have to keep maintaining the role of policing consistency. Then we introduced some optimization groups as a tactics in order to make changes that would have large impacts. And we focused on optimizing 3 key foundations of our system, led by people across the team. So it wasn't just a design system, it was led by designers across different teams. The first element of our foundation that we optimized was typography. And this is because typography is the bedrock of the FT, just like any other news product. And this means large impact, large reach, and better experience for end users, which is our goal. Also, in order to be quite tactical about how we optimize for the biggest reach, Icons presented an opportunity for designers to come together, audit the whole suite, and then take that audit, redesign it, and then create guidelines for Icons to be used more scalably for future contributions. So before I go to the third element, can anyone guess what's the most used component in our design system? You can just shout it out. Yes. yes, buttons. Yeah, so according to Figma Analytics, we have over 92K instances of buttons across 45 teams, which is quite a lot. And that also means that I will talk more about buttons. So buttons was our third optimization area. And apart from the fact that button was used across and provided an opportunity for us to make a change that then has a ripple effect across the products, we discovered that there was the buttons appear quite flat on the page, providing limited distinction between what is a call to action and what is just a static element on the page. And certain themes were quite confused with tags. Then also the height of our standard button was just slightly below the industry standard for touch area on mobile. So these 2 challenges then pushed us to make further audits. During the audits, we then discovered that over the years, designers have tried to solve for the issue that they have, that we had regarding like the height of button, and then made individual decisions across boards. For instance, as you can see, we have a 48 and then we have a 47 pixel there, which you can attribute to human error. And that could have been avoided if the button met the need of the designer here. So after the audit, I then began to define the changes that we would use to optimize the buttons. that wasn't without its own challenges. And during the optimization, we had to make some compromise. In terms of introducing affordance to the buttons to make it look less flat on the page, we initially proposed a radius of 4 pixels, but that meant that in instances where, for instance, the grouped button where we have an inner radius and an outer radius, to provide the balance visually, we went as far as having 6 pixels. And going from a button that did not have a radius to 6 pixels was a large jump. And then we had to make compromises there. So then we settled on having a 2-pixel radius. And this way we could balance providing affordance and maintaining the FT brand's identity. So at the end of the process, we had an increased standard button height that was then increased to 44 pixels, which is within the range of the guidelines, then also affordance, a little bit of affordance, while still staying within the FT brand. And then increase our text, which is in line with the typography optimization work. So the 3 optimization piece of work were working together closely. Standards, standards, standards. This is a crucial aspect of our day-to-day and how we work with the design system or just building products in general. So we introduced design guidelines because previously we had mostly engineering or technical guidelines. And the reason why we did this was, of course, to establish a scalable model for maintaining and uploading and upholding rather our design standards. A good place to start again is buttons. And since we were refining buttons, it provided us an opportunity to optimize, to create guidelines for those optimized buttons. So here we did, after creating like the best practice, how designers should make certain decisions, placements of buttons to provide consistency across. We did some experimentation with ChatGPT to provide like a content template that matches the FT tone and voice. So after multiple tries, we were able to get something that is a template that can then be replicated for subsequent components or pattern guidelines. So still on the design guidelines, at the moment we have an in-house documentation website. And then the challenge with that is that only engineers have close access to these guidelines. And we are working towards a place where designers across the different areas of the product can contribute to our guidelines. So this is the challenge that we have at the moment. If you've solved this issue in your organization, I would love to hear about it. Feel free to chat to me later. As Mufasa said to Simba in Lion King, everything light touches is our kingdom. I'm sure we have our design system folks here, and this is the truth. So even though you're a small team, you have to uphold standards, set foundations, and then enable the designers and the engineers in the organization to build better products. So having experienced success using the optimization projects, we thought about how we could further evolve our ways of working. And we did that by listening more closely to teams. So we reviewed our guild sessions in such a way that became like bi-weekly, but smaller groups of people working together. And how that would translate is if there is a challenge, then the designer or the engineer can come to the guild, and then we can turn in-flight work into system contributions. We've had some success with this new method, and which I'll be sharing on the bottom sheet component. So I'm going to paint a scenario where Chris in our AI team needed a bottom sheet component for a new feature, and he came to the guild, brought this need to the guild, and then we invited. So if you're interested in bottom sheet, or if you used bottom sheets in the past, come have a chat. And then we had this conversation, and then we realized that 3 other teams have either used the bottom sheet component or have it on their roadmap. So 1 was already in production. And this provided a fabulous opportunity to turn that into a discussion of understanding the different use cases, the one that is currently existing, can it work for the new use case? And if it does work, then we would then avoid reinventing the wheel. And then this also provided us an opportunity to create design guidelines. For use cases, design guidelines is going to make it faster for the subsequent designers that are creating that components, and also ensure consistency, even though they're like in different product teams. So the guild, the new reformed guild, provided us that means for us to be able to have this kind of conversations to begin with and bridge that gap. And then based on the discussed requirements and the best practice, so Chris proceeded to create the bottom sheet guidelines, and following also the design guidelines that we created as a template, it made it easier and made Chris more comfortable contributing the guidelines because he then had something to follow, and then wasn't creating it from scratch. After that, then this was then contributed back into the system. And then in terms of effort to dynamics, because I've explained it like it's so simple, but the actual work is like 1 to 2 weeks of work, but in the reality, it's like 4 or 5 weeks overall with the guild reviews back and forth. So what's the way forward? We've already had measurable success via contribution so far. However, that's quite not sustainable. So in order for us to achieve sustainability and scalability, we are currently working on a contribution model. And what that does is to help us define what good is for contribution, to be able to answer the questions, how do I contribute successfully, and what's the governance and what's the contribution model going to look like, so that we don't end up right where we started. So this is evolving at the moment, and we are currently defining what shared ownership would look like for us. The design system will only work if it's a shared responsibility and we build it together. So if we get this right, our teams will spend less time reinventing the wheel and carrying out audits, and then they spend more time solving the actual problems of users. And that's the real win. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mary. Great. Nice to see those insights. Engineering, design, working beautifully together in collaboration. So you know I'm here for it. Speaking of engineers, yeah, you see how I did that segue. Thank you. Speaking of engineers, they are obviously a very important part of the team. Are they just front-end engineers? Are they specialized design system engineers? Who is better to tell us about that than our next speaker, which is going to talk to us about the role of a design system engineer. Raul, please, the stage is yours. If you have any questions, by the way, for Mary, fill out that slide.
Right. You hear me? Okay. So I'm glad because this is the first conference that I don't have to buy anyone to this design system. So it makes my life much easier. So just a little bit of myself, who I am. My name is Raul. I'm actually lead design system engineer at Bumble. I've been working as an engineer for as long as I can remember. If you ever use iOS 4, I was there developing apps. If you ever heard the word Flash, I was also there producing Flash. Actually, apps built in Flash. Not a lot of people knows that. Fun fact about me is that I have 60 pairs of sneakers and it's growing, which means that a year has 52 weeks. I can use one sneaker a week without repeating, and I still have room to decide what I want to do. And one thing with sneakers is once you start, you're so embarrassed that you decide that stop is actually more embarrassing. So you just keep going. Important about this talk is bear in mind that a lot of things is always based on my experience. I don't have a lot of data to back this. I do my research, but if you see something that doesn't sound right, just talk to me afterwards or raise your hand. It's always going to be cool. I want to start in a very different way. Like I changed this presentation like a couple of times, and that's this quote from someone that I don't want to quote because I'm not a huge fan. But when you create a company, there's only 3 roles that are actually important for you to move this company ahead, which is president, secretary, and treasurer. The rest of the roles are just invented by us to fulfill a need of having a representation or put some meaning in what we do, right? So we can be specialized in something. We're gonna answer this question at the end of the whole talk, but just keep that in mind because it's quite important. But when you talk about like what's actually the role of the the scientist and engineer, like how many engineers we have here again? Raise your hands, like fairly little one, yeah. We are represented, but not that much. But what actually we do, where do we see what is actually our main job? Like past the years, things just keep increasing. Our scope is bigger. Like we start with something that is quite small. Like we had to do one small task. And if you compare with what we do today, it's quite massive, right? We got so much responsibility. We got to learn so much, but it still, depending on what you do, you're not fully respected on your industry. If you have like massive teams, like we have at Bumble, sometimes you can be mislooked at like, yeah, actually you don't know about engineering. That can happen in a lot of companies because there's the fact that you carry the design word on your title. It gives you the impression that you are a design guy, which some reality somewhere. But when you look back at the industry, like actually, what's the early days of it being a design, right? So I tried to explain my family what I do for a living, and that's what I came up with, which is, as Mary was saying, like it's buttons the most used component. So that's how I explain my family. What do you do? I'm like, I do buttons. It's easy to explain to my cat as well. He can understand quite well. But at the end, what we do for the majority of the people is just like, it's just a button, right? You get your Figma file, then you have your whole representation of like, variants. And what you ask to do most of the times is this, just put a button screen, create a button, how the code looks like. So that's the button factor, that's us. For the eyes of the product, sometimes for the eyes for the actual engineers, that's what they think that we do. But if you look at yourself as an engineer, look at the industry, like we started as this UI engineer. So first we are just designers, we knew what we were doing, then we evolved to become UI engineers. The first time that I heard the term UI engineer was actually on Netflix. So I was looking for some jobs and I saw that Netflix actually had UI engineers, not design system engineers. So Netflix, they do have the concept that a lot of engineers, they do not just the platform, the features, but they do produce the UI engineer. But as we develop the design system, the UI engineer is just like 10% of our work. Like, doesn't represent much. We are in the moment that even an AI can actually perform a UI work. Then we have design engineer, which is a little bit more advanced word that bridges design and brings engineering together. At the end, it's the same work, but you have a better access to the files, you have a better understanding how things goes. And this is a new one for me, technologists. How many of you heard this term before, technologists? Quite a few. You work specialized in what exactly, right? A design, engineering code, bridging the gap, bringing everything together. So actually what we do, that's what the industry thinks that we do. We focus on components, now tokens, but the main job that we do is pixel perfect. Every time that we actually go to do something like, oh, is this pixel perfect? How do we achieve pixel perfect? This is a buzzword. And we just keep pushing for that. Or fast handover. That's the surface labs consistency, right? It's just how do you actually make things fast? What's their main job? Do pixel perfect. That makes, just handover fast. So I probably write the specs, I write the components, and the consumers goes down. But we know that what we do is deeper than that. And this is where the iceberg comes in. The button at the tip of the iceberg, which is pretty much what everyone keeps thinking, like it's just a button that we do. But when we look actually at responsibilities, how the system grew over time is much more than that. Even the components is just the surface with what we do. Now, over the years, we had to understand infrastructure, what that means. Like, a design system nowadays doesn't work without infrastructure. You need your tokens, you need your pipeline automations, you need Figma plugins nowadays. It's not just copy and paste. No, we are in that level that if you want to automate, make things faster, ready for the future, that's a lot of infrastructure. Just like any application nowadays, infrastructure also leads to security. If you expose your components or in structure to something malicious, we are opening a backdoor. And we have governance. That's something that a lot of people didn't know at first. We also need to understand that when we build things, we need to not just do the re-representation, the pixel perfect of this work. Like, we are responsible how engineers make things together. So if you have a button and you open the door for your button on your APIs when you design them to have a checkbox inside, is that right? The design might not represent that one, but if you open the back door, someone will do it, and they do. I have a lot of experience, like people are just misusing components and create ad hoc components. And it comes to the point that ad hocs cost companies a lot of money over time because they misrepresent your identity. They open the door for customizations, and you're responsible for that because you designed bad your APIs. And on top of that, we also have support. We just don't just throw things down. We are responsible for customer support, where a customer is not just the designers, it's also the engineers. We are responsible for the whole workflow, support them, make sure they have the tools. So actually, what is being a design system engineer? Well, if we break down, design system engineer actually is composed by two main governance, right? One is design, the other one is system engineer. And when you break down two governance, actually you know exactly what that means, right? So we have the design path where you understand the design language, you know what's typography, you know color, tokens, you have your motions, all those kind of things. You are the design that understand that part. You understand contribution model, you understand versioning, a strategy, how to communicate with the business, your product. You also understand consistency and how components can be used across platforms. Even though you might be, some iOS, some Android engineers, you have a better understanding from cross-platform solutions. You understand design patterns, you understand navigation patterns, things that the majority of the engineers don't actually look at. And then you come across bridging the communication with all the designers. So you know exactly the technical skill that is required to go and bring the information to the communication, make sure that they understand, you understand the struggle. So you are the bridge that communicates. It's not just about software. You are someone that understands that part well to do everything that's needed. And we have the system engineer, which is the complex part, is why we are here. Being a system engineer, and I think that's important. It's not just engineer. We are talking about designing a whole system in this path. So you build infrastructure. So all the tooling that actually is needed for your design system to run. Like, believe it or not, but you also need to know, the continuous delivery process. You need to understand how from Figma I'm going to publish, and from the other side, my tokens are going to be there. You need to understand the whole process, which language I'm going to choose. What are the tools that are being used there? There's Supernova, there's Zero High, that is Storybooks. You are responsible for choosing the best tools and trying to understand how they work and connect together. You are the one that set up the whole process to work. You are responsible also to ensure scalability, reliability, and adoption across teams. Unlike the majority of the teams, which is a feature-based, they are judged by the revenue that it can bring in the features, and it works, right? When you have your feature being delivered, you know the metrics, you know if it's being used or not, you know exactly how that works. But being assistant engineers means that your metric is adoption. Like, you are responsible for the success of the product as long as people adopt your product. Whatever you do, if you don't do properly, you have much more complex scenario. If you don't have adoption, the system fails, and you actually introduce tech debt. Tech debt costs companies a lot, and it's a lot to have on your shoulders. And you have to shape the platform for the future. And what would be the presentation nowadays without talking to you about AI, right? So you got to a position that you need to understand how AI works so you can prepare the foundation for AI, which here is AI readiness. It needs to be ready. It's like AI is not just a companion for the engineers. AI is consuming you as a product, and you need to understand what language to use to communicate with AI. It's not just about design aware, it's engineering a system that's interconnected with a lot of ends, and you need to understand those ends. It's AI, it's designer, it's an engineer, it's a product, it's all connected. We evolved from a simple button factory to become a wide SaaS in-house. So we provide a product for the company to scale the product. We be there. And this is where we are now, the scaling and the platform thing, which is interesting. So when you have all these responsibilities, you as the design system engineer, what actually do you sit? Like, who is your boss at the end? Like, who you have to report to? And that's quite interesting. Like, while the majority of engineers report for an engineering vertical, you are not there. You're actually between two verticals, which is much more complex. You need to understand engineering, which is going to be the one driving your path across the company. So from design, you become lead, you become staff, you become principal, distinguished. And if you choose to be, you can be even a CTO or even more. If you go to the other path, you can still be a design system manager and still know about the engineering. But you also have the vertical, which is design. So your product team is always going to be towards you as well. So you need to understand the product needs, the design needs to evolve your product. It's not just how I can do well as an engineer. If you do that, you just say, well, engineer. It's how I can do well across my verticals so I know what my product wants to, and I know what my engineer wants to. Remember, you are the provider for the system. It works for the system, and you drive the system forward. We are platform contributors more than anything else. If you work in a company that has actually a platform team, you know what that means, is you build foundation. Great systems are building stable foundations. AI only exists nowadays because we built such a strong foundation so when it could learn and it could scale. You build foundation for scalability, and that's what I'm driving forwards. And as I say, design needs performance and needs secure. Like any infra is a huge infrastructure work. Like, just to keep something up and running, it takes time, it takes research. It's not just about having something, in the code base that works. You have to keep moving forward. Like, you don't just do something and forget about it. No, you have to keep involved your product. You have to keep involved technology. You need to be always on top of it, because at the end, what drives our success is adoption, not just aesthetics. It's not just if something looks good, it passed. No. We are driven by the adoption. That's how we are measured by. If it doesn't work, we fail, which is our main role. So what we do, we just enable hundreds of engineers and designers to move faster. That's what actually we do when we're trying to answer the question. It's not buttons, it's not just UI. Our main job is to make sure that everyone can move faster, everyone has exactly the tools that they need so we can scale. It's not just about scaling the visual system, it is scaling for hundreds of users, which are the engineers, and the final users as well, if you count it. And AI is there. Not going to talk about it's going to take jobs. I think it's a topic that for me is already dead. It keeps evolved, but we are requested now to use AI every day. And what that means, like we can use it as a co-pilot, works, amazing. But AI without context is just a junior engineer that doesn't know actually what they are doing in the playground. So when you're asked about AI, what's the future, we need to adapt our mental model and how we do things. So we get to this, our button factor becomes a little bit more complex because instead of just providing information for engineers, we now need to play with a completely different playground. How we translate everything that we do, constraints, governance, components, to actually AI agents. We are the one that now needs to do all those kind of things. So part of your job right now is also to write better prompts, agents, understanding MCPs, understand everything that's being offered, so you can better prepare your system for the AI. But AI is not just a co-pilot; it becomes a consumer of your system, which is now is kind of like have junior engineers that actually you cannot speak with them unless you use caps lock. It works very well. And this is what we see. AI can generate UI. Yes, AI will generate UI, but as long as we provide a good foundation for the design system, AI will generate the perfect UI that we are expecting to, which it does not harm our brand, follow our guidelines. AI that can actually scale without us being on top of it. Because we are input all those kind of things, we are, we define the structure, we define the metadata that's going to be, the semantic tokens, like we are preparing all this context for actually AI. And how people are going to prompt is our responsibility as well. Now, just good thing about Figma that you can use MCP, copy and paste in your prompt, and going to give you a lot of rich information. It's incredible, but you are responsible for how that information is going to be refined. It's copy and paste something, not going to give you the, the magic output. You need to find your system and provide the right rules so the agents can also work. As you have engineers, you also have AI as a consumer, and that's how that's pretty much being ready for the future. And that's what we assume. Like, if you want to build for AI, you want AI to actually consume your system well, you need to be prepared for it, and it's part of actually your role and what you do. So you see that from UI engineers, we become a much more complex system that has too many consumers there, and AI becomes one of those. And why this actually matters at the end, why actually matters being called a design system engineer, not just, engineer, L4, L5, UI engineer. Why actually do we care to be called properly? And it's because of this perception, shapes adoption. Like, we just don't do UI anymore. We want to be understood and actually get paid for actually what we do, which is providing a system for everything that's connected. We are closer from not just design, we're close for engineering in infrastructure way. So that's what we care. That's why we want to be called like properly. That's part of our roles. And defining those constraints helps us to understand. Now, I don't remember what I put a guidance expectation, but it's about adoption at the end. We have different expectations from the majority of the teams. It's not about just success of the product. We are measured by the success of how people implement the product. And having these guidelines well defined, it helps us to define the future. And the future is just like we say, now it's AI. What's next, right? Are we going to be talking, using Amazon Whisper, actually, that, you can communicate with AI. So we need to prepare the system for the future. So at the end, design system engineer, the role itself, it's about a lot of responsibilities. It's about how you measure, how you create the system, how you define, how you scale, how you produce things properly in-house. So if you look back at our iceberg, no, it's not just surface. We are deeper than that. It's complex to understand. It's really hard to find professionals that actually wants to take the responsibility and moving on. So to wrap up, because it's a very short presentation, so things that we actually do, like the three topics. We are infrastructure, so we do plugins, so we need to understand how they work. We do pipelines, we need to understand CI, we need to understand, how things connect together, how tokens are produced, how we test, how we detect regressions, how we support all that infrastructure. So we are infra, we are consistency, how our system connects together with the other parts of the project. We are responsible for designing perfect APIs that people don't break it. People we use as intended. AI we use as intended. Don't find backdoors, don't find exceptions. Exceptions create tech debt. Tech debt creates problems in the future because it costs us a lot. We are support because every single consumer needs our attention constantly. So what we keep doing is just repeating the wheel. We do things, we ask the users, we listen to feedback, we scale the system, we go back and forward. Like we are directly, our consumers, our devs, our designers, and we are directly in touch with them. And the end one is AI. We are responsible to make sure that the system is ready for AI, which is a complex task because AI changes every day. New tools come every single day. And we need to every single day wake up and first thing that we do is like, let me see how AI is going to change my day today. Not for the good, not for the bad, just make sure that your system scales for it. It's not just AI anymore, it's infra, adoption, AI readiness, not just UI, I'm sorry. It's about everything that's connected. Oops. Yeah, so it's not just about code, it's about create a system that everyone can understand. Every single system can talk to it and make sure that actually is scalable. And I think that's actually being a design system engineer, that's the role. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I can tell you that this Q&A is going to be lit. The questions are firing up, so I'm very excited about that. We have been talking about design and collaboration. We have been talking about engineering. So what is beyond design and engineering? One might ask oneself. Hang tight. You shall find out after the break. I know, right? So we're going to take a quick break, have some more drinks, mingle, get to know each other, share each other's concerns and musings and findings about the design system. And I should see you back here. I'll probably start asking you to take a seat in about 15 minutes. Enjoy. Thank you. It's me. There we are. Do you know what? I always feel a bit bad at this moment because it's at the time when everyone has literally just warmed up and gone like, I'm so comfortable talking to other people now and getting to know them. And then it's like, oh, it's time to sit down again. So as much as we would love to be here all night talking, we do actually have one more talk and the Q&A. And then obviously there is the pub afterwards, and that you can spend as much time as you want to talk to each other until they kick us out. So as I said before, we have been talking about design and the collaboration, talking about engineering, and now we're going to talk about the organizational design system moving beyond design and engineering. And for that, I would love to welcome our next fantastic speaker, Vanessa.
Hello, everyone. I'm Vanessa. So I am Global Director of UX at Dye Durham, which is a digital tech company that you've never heard of. And essentially, I am a design leader, a speaker, but ultimately what I like to do is solve problems. So I'm a problem solver at heart, like all of us probably in this room are. And if you are anything like me, you are probably flagging a little bit, maybe a bit tired after like a whole day of work. So what we're going to do, just make sure you're paying attention to me, is we're going to do a little quiz. And don't worry, there's only 3 questions. So hands up who is the CEO of Figma? Is it A, Chad Wallace, or is it B, Dylan Field? B? Right, all right. It is B. Also, please note that there is typos in this presentation, so bear with me and just ignore them. Okay, second question. How old is material design? Is it A, 11 years, or is it B, 15 years? 15, how many? We've got any A's, any B's? B, okay. This is where the typo comes in. It's actually 11 years. It's 11 years. Not 10. You could tell I did this slide last year. So anyway, that's the end of it. Everyone's awake. That's great. So now on to the actual topic of what I wanted to talk about. And my last question to you, or one of the last, is who within your organization currently uses your design system? Feel free to shout out. Developers, yep. Designers, yep. Any oh yeah, that's nice. Anything else? Right. Anyone else other than product design, engineering, marketers? Okay. Someone said something else? Producers. Brands, yep. You've already seen my presentation, obviously. So I think for the most part, and these were the top 2 kind of answers, most design systems remain trapped in design engineering silos, right? Engineering really gets the benefits of the design system. Designers really understand it. Maybe there's platform teams that understand it, but it kind of stays within that ecosystem of design and engineering. And I think when I was at Kazoo, so I previously worked at Kazoo, what happened is the director of product, who was in charge of product and design, basically said this. So he said he didn't understand the point of design operations after we had the design system. And as a result, when the cost cutting inevitably came in and the layoffs happened, design operations was one of the first teams to be cut. And we end up in a little bit of a challenge here, right? Because in the past, design, or even now, design systems are seen as component libraries. And what we need to do is shift it into critical organizational infrastructure. So then when there is things like layoffs, they're not the first teams to be cut. They're looking at other areas because it's so crucial to the way a company operates. It stays, it remains. And the challenge for us, everyone in this room, is expanding that influence to other parts of that organization. And it's quite difficult because we're already in organizations that maybe don't understand design or maybe understand engineering. And then you've got this bit of design systems, which is like a subpart of that could be quite technical and quite difficult to explain. So you might be like, well, how do I expand this influence? What does this kind of look like? And that's what I want to talk to you about today. So the first thing starts with people, inevitably. And my question to you, another question, sorry, is who are your stakeholders? And also a follow-up question is, how well do you know those stakeholders? Who are the people who should know about you and your teams? And most things when it comes to organizational change and influence always starts with people and knowing your people. And I think especially when it comes to not just design, but design systems, having champions across departments is super, super crucial because they are the people who are advocating for you when you're not in the room, when you're not there. They're saying, well, actually, this team is really great, you know, oh, this person did this for me. I don't think you should, I think you should pull this person into this project. So the first thing to do when you're thinking about stakeholders and your stakeholders is to create a map, basically. And I'll show you an example of that in the next slide. but think about how much influence do they have. So there's probably a couple of names already in your head that you're thinking about. How much are they brought into design systems, design ops, and how often should you be communicating with them as well? And I think with this kind of document and this documentation, you should be updating it regularly, because if you're like anything like my company, things are changing all the time. There's new C-suite that's coming in. There's new people that are coming in. It's always changing. So refer to this as often as you need to. So here's a bit of an example of a map, a stakeholder map. And what I like to do is map it against, I call it friendliness because it's just easier. So how much do they get design versus how much they don't get design? And how influential are they versus how not influential are they? And essentially the group that you want to focus on is the target education and quick wins group. So the one over there. And what the aim of the game essentially is to how you can shift those people into the right and make them into visible champions. So again, you have more people when you're not in the room advocating for you and your design system. And then you've got people on the ground who really get the design system. They're probably going to be engineers, designers, maybe some product people. They're the ones that you want to use that are on the ground to advocate for you on the ground. So they're really talking to people who don't have a lot of influence, but also talking like almost working on adoption and helping that adoption of your design system. But really what you want to focus on is those people that are high influence that really don't get your design system. So how are we going to do that? I think one of the first things is to make sure you're having regular meetings with these key stakeholders, especially those influential ones. And it might be quite difficult to get in that room and to speak to them. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a few techniques of how you can kind of angle the conversation based on the different people that you're speaking to. So now we're going to go into tactics. So part of it is a little bit of manipulation. Part of it is you knowing the people that you're going to speak to and what motivates them, and so using that to manipulate and to get your own way. And what I'm going to do is focus on the 4 groups. There's other groups, like I was thinking today, actually, there's like HR that you could probably use as a group, and other kind of stakeholders. But I'm going to focus on these 4 for now. So the first one is product management. So everyone's quite intelligent in this room. What kind of angle do you think that you could do to speak to product managers? What do they kind of care about? Speed, someone said. Anyone else? Roadmaps. Features, there we go. Profit, someone said. So I think the angle, and these are all great things, thinking about what they actually care about, right? So they care about roadmaps, they care about delivery, they care about features, but also the user should be in there somewhere. So think about how you can connect the design system capabilities to those user outcomes, but also the other outcomes as well that you have for your design system. I think one of the key strategies for PMs is to look at their roadmaps and their documentation, what's coming up, what are they thinking about, and then actually how your design system can help. How can you help with the design system then deliver as quickly as possible, right? Because they're saving money, they're saving time, so they can put more things on the roadmap. I think one of the quick wins, in terms of quick wins, is to demonstrate reduced inconsistency across those user journeys. So most product managers and product people are looking after a certain area. So how can you make sure that that area is as consistent as possible, right? And that's basically a design system that's going to help with that. Make sure as well, and I'll talk about metrics later, but make sure you're actually collecting these metrics so you can talk about those success stories. The next area that I wanted to talk about was marketing. And I think with marketing, we almost sleep on them quite a lot because I think design systems can really help. They're always creating assets. They always have some kind of campaign going on. And actually design systems can help deploy those campaigns quicker, create consistency between those campaigns as well. And you can use your skills to create marketing specific component libraries and out of the box kind of toolkits and things like that. That's how you could be used. And actually, you're probably going to save costs because that would go to an agency, and the design systems team can probably do that pretty easily, right? So I think marketing is a really big opportunity. If you're not talking to marketing, definitely try and talk to them, because there's an opportunity for design systems to really help and influence. And then I think also having that conversation around how the brand translates into a design system and throughout the products is another good conversation to have, that you can start talking about how design systems can help with that. Again, it's that consistent message. With content, that's another one, very similar to the marketing teams, where again, it's consistency is the key thing. So that consistent kind of message. So again, think about those content patterns that you can create, that you have that one singular tone of voice. So it's almost like, how do you go from a micro copy to a paragraph, and how can you do that in a systematic way? One of the key kind of strategies is to map the tone of voice to UI components. And also think about how you can do some quick wins, which will be some kind of documentation and some guidance for designers that are using it. And then the business stakeholders was always the biggest challenge I find. So I think one thing to think about is to think about their language and to speak to their language. So quantify that business impact in their terms. What they care about is ROI, they care about cost savings. So really think about how you can translate what you're saying into those kind of things, like how have you saved costs? How have you made teams more efficient? And you want to position the design system as a strategic asset for the business. I think a quick win of this is really those stories, right? So collecting those stories and being able to say how much time you've saved, but also how much cost you've saved by people using your design system. And at the heart of a lot of this is communication and visibility. And I think that's the key thing as being in the design system team, is make sure you're communicating externally, but making sure that you're as visible as possible. And there's two kind of sides to this. So communication is really about understanding your stakeholders' needs and then adapting your communication to those needs. So really think about your stakeholders' communication preferences, how often you should communicate, what type of communication it should be. So for example, in my organization, I have some people that love Teams, but I also have some people that are all about emails. So you almost have to like broadcast your information and your communication in many different forums. There's also Confluence, Notion, all of those kind of things as well. And then from that visibility perspective, it's really about highlighting the value of your team, right? So it's creating those visibility for wins. Think about dashboards, think about those success stories as well. What works in a lot of organizations that I've been in, but also for those big stakeholders who don't really have that much time, think about videos that you can do. So here's some new component that we've done, here's how much time it can save, or this team used this, they've saved X amount of time. Do a quick Loom video and then put that in Slack or Teams. And then that's now shareable content that you can reuse over and over again. I cannot state the importance of establishing meaningful metrics and showing that impact over time. There's short kind of term impact, but there's also that long-term impact that you need to show and demonstrate. And I think one of the powerful things as well is before and after comparisons. So if you can show some before and after comparisons, they really resonate with leadership or people that are less apt in terms of like design and technical acumen. And then I do love a bit of a framework. So here's a communication framework, and you kind of want to dial it up or dial it down depending on the person that you're talking to. So when we talk about business impact, think about things like cost saving, time to market improvements, quick delivery, all of those kind of good stuff and those buzzwords. When we talk about user experience and you're talking to like designers and people that think about user experience, think about those consistency metrics. user satisfaction as well, and task completion. So how quickly has someone been able to complete a task? Again, that before and after. And then when you're speaking to engineers or some people who are a bit more technical, think about those technical benefits, right? So tech debt, everyone likes reduced tech debt, reduction in handover time as well. And then on that design brand element, design time savings, handover time, reduction in handover time, but also that brand consistency. I think especially in design systems, consistency is the thing that is kind of like the hook sometimes that you talk about, because I think that's what piques people's ears. And I keep banging on about metrics, but metrics speak to your business stakeholders. So really think about how you can gather these metrics and how you can talk about these metrics. So, and also, I think the thing is, we have talked about component adoption today, but actually component adoption doesn't equal organizational success. It's all about the need to measure brand consistency, business impact, cross-team efficiency, which is what the design system is actually actively doing right now. We're just not talking about it. We need to switch the way we're talking about design systems, right? So this is a bit of a design system health framework. So you can use some of the bits that I've said and create it into a framework. So this is an example, but you can divide your success metrics into different kind of aspects. So in this example, I've got adoption rate, you've got 2, which is contribution velocity, 3 is resolution time, 4 is document completeness, and 5 is user satisfaction. And then what you can actually do with that is create a bit of a table and KPIs underneath that. So what you could do is relate that to each team or each key stakeholder that you work with, right? So say, for example, resolution time could be something around how quickly anyone who raises an issue with the design system, how quickly you resolve that, right? And essentially you want to fill in your KPIs in here and give it all a bit of a score. And in this example, if you go below, I think it's 50, below 60, then it's something that's a bit of a red flag that you need to observe, right? You need to kind of zoom in and see what's going on. But it gives you the ability to be able to create some metrics that you can talk to and see how you're tracking and trending across some KPIs that you have that are beyond just the design team, but also are linked to those business kind of goals as well. So in conclusion, here are my kind of top tips for going beyond the design team and the engineering team. Design systems must speak everyone's language. You need to measure and communicate the impact in the terms that other people care about and in the terms that people understand as well. So really think about, like I said, those metrics, but also think about like ROI, those business goals. What are people trying to achieve and how are they trying to achieve it, but also how you can help. I think also if you're in the beginning of your journey, start small and scale smart. So start with one stakeholder, work with them, get those success stories, use that to kind of promote that, and then start again with another stakeholder. Identifying champions and really targeting them can really work in creating those quick wins. And then my last one is build relationships beyond design. Really be curious, like go into the office, speak to people in the kitchen, try and understand what they do, and have meetings with them as well, right? Just have a 15-minute meeting with them. And really your goal is to understand what they do, but also understand how you can help them. And it could be a really small thing, like pointing them to some documentation or pointing them to a case study that you've already done. Some of those things can actually get you front in mind of some people. And that is me for it. So if anyone wants to add me to LinkedIn, feel free. And I think we're going to go on to Q&A. Okay.
Oh, music, love that. Not yet though. Party will happen. So before, just as Vanessa said, we are now going to go on to the Q&A. So here is the QR code again. I would like to welcome the speakers. I know you're all having a really thinking, oh my God, I'm glad that's over. It's not. This is where the fun starts. So please come and join me here on stage. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Oh my God, the guy is so good. He's so smooth.
Shall I sit next to you?
Oh, do come and sit next to me, absolutely. And there we go, Raul as well. Can we just do a quick check? Vanessa, can you, hello? Can we hear Vanessa?
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Me?
Like, yes, yeah. Excellent. We can hear and see everybody. So just going to set expectations straight away. We are not going to be able to answer all the questions. And I say that as if that's a problem. For me, that's a delightful problem to have because it means that we've got a lot of questions. So we are going to try to go through as many as possible. And also, I know that there's going to be people at the back waving at me when the time is running low. So I'll do my best. First of all, thank you so much, all of you. Fantastic talks, some really interesting insights. And thank you, everyone, for the questions. Really interesting questions. So many, but for anyone here who put a question, I want to start by asking, is anyone, do we have the microphones ready? Excellent. Is anyone brave enough to ask their question out into the room? And the answer is, of course we are. Yes? Go on. Let's see. We have a question here.
It was a question for you. Is that working? Yeah. It was a question for you, Raul. I was wondering if you can give us any tips. Besides, you didn't. I'm interested in how we can make sure that our components are sort of prompt ready. And you did mention metadata, and you did mention something else, which I forgot. Thank you. Yeah, semantic naming. Yes, but I wondered if there's anything else.
So the key to actually be ready for AI in the sense is like you have the clarity of your components APIs needs to be very, well established. You need to build documentations on top of it. And documentation is not just about engineering, it's about how you consume as a designer. Because when you feed that to the AI context, it's like AI doesn't know anything about your system, doesn't know anything about the product. It's all about what you give as a context. So you document it, you create the constraints, and you create the fallbacks, and you create what I call the agent rules, which is like do's and don'ts. So if you combine all that, for instance, you're gonna use a button. You use a button in those scenarios, that's context for AI. Your buttons support those variations, that's context for AI. Don't use buttons and navigation bar, that's a don'ts. Using buttons for primary, second, third direction, that's the do's. All these creates like a chain of rules that helps your design system to be consumed by AI and actually you'll be the better product in that sense, like very fast.
Excellent. Thank you. Do you have anyone who wants to ask a question in person? Yes, we do. Oh, we got two people. Let's start with gentleman at the back, and then we go to gentleman over there. This is what I want.
Oh, thanks so much. It's a follow-on, really, which is when we're consuming, when an AI is consuming the output of your design system, is good documentation for a human being also good documentation for an AI? Or do you find yourself having to either frame that information in different ways or provide different information to give an LLM the right prompt to do the right thing?
Yeah, so it's the one that you use for human works and very, very well. But guys from Figma is here. I shouldn't say that, but they know about it. Like MCP, when you crop the link for the Figma screen, for instance, and put it in the chat, that brings you a tree of elements. And if you use code connect as well, that works as a documentation. So it's things that engineers don't read, but the AI will take that context, that metadata, and it's going to understand better than engineers in a sense. I still find that engineers produce better outputs, but if you combine a lot of things, you can have like 90% of the same output. But that it works documentation, yes, but you need to provide more. AI, it works when you give more and more and more, but you have to be careful with the context window.
Thank you. We have a question here as well.
I've got two questions, that's all right.
Two questions,
Yeah.
come on.
I'll be quick.
Let's go for it.
So question for Mary, you had a slide on system guild, and you had products and partners products or partnerships, when you choose, do you choose those people who are in that guild? Are they specific people that you would choose who you see as advocates of the system? And who are they? Are they people who work in product?
Yes, so I think because of the way our structure works, we work closely with designers across the product areas. So the guild is like a space where every designer is in, and then someone can send a message and say, I'm working on these products. Is it familiar? Have you used it before? And then we set up a meeting. Anyone can join as optional. So they join, we have the conversation, and then we pick things up from there.
Okay, so it's like a guild for everyone to join, and then they can. It's like a safe space. That can,
exactly.
Cool. Oh, yeah. Cool. And then the next question is for Vanessa. In terms of everything you presented, do you see that as, in terms of thinking about who would be the person who takes care of that in the design system team? Is that someone's additional responsibility, or is that do you see that as a separate role for someone to be measuring the health of the system and then doing that communication? How do you see that working in a design system team?
Good question. I think it depends on the structure of the team, because I think if you are the only designer in the design system team, then it kind of is your role, I would say, to do that. And probably not as crazy as what I've done, but I think what you kind of need to do is just make sure you're talking to people. Ultimately, make sure you're having those conversations. If you have a structure where you have a design system lead, that's the expectation 100%, right? Getting those, it's advocating for your team at the end of the day. So creating those metrics, speaking to people, looking for those opportunities for your team as well. So I think one thing with design systems teams is they're systems thinkers. So there's all sorts of organizational problems that systems thinkers can actually solve, right? So organizational design, stuff in HR, marketing. So as a design system leader, I mean, I would expect, if they're reporting into me, for them to be looking for those kind of opportunities, because I think once you're in every area of the organization, it's really hard to kind of get rid of you, essentially, which in design, unfortunately, it's about our survival, right? So that's what it is. So it's very difficult when you're in every kind of area for them to actually get rid of a design system team, because you're beyond design systems. You're in every aspect of the organization. And I think especially as designers, we have these, even design engineers, right? Design system engineers, we have these skill sets that are very specific to us, but not everyone in the organization has. And we should be using those skills a lot more.
Get your course in and stay there.
Basically.
But I think it's interesting to say that as well, because I've noticed that you're talking about system thinking, about being able to solve problems beyond design. Like as designers, but particularly as design system designers, when we work with organization, it's interesting how you end up in a random department or function that you had absolutely no intention on, but because the way you solve a problem or the way that you think about it, that kind of falls under your remit as well. So yeah, absolutely. And that's a great way of getting yourself in and then being like, make yourself someone that they can't live without. Do you have any more questions in the audience? Go for it. Let's get a microphone over here as well.
We've got, so this is Raul, we've got an issue in our design system where it's a component library. Have you got any tips on how to, and obviously any updates then need to go through, need to be embedded in code. Have you got any tips on how to kind of allow or bring the designers in? We've got a UX designer, we've got head of design, how they can contribute to it without sort of a CMS. Are there integrations that you can recommend? Or
I'm someone that doesn't like people on my files or even on my code. So, stay away from here. It's not your field. But we have a very powerful contribution model at Bumble, where we incentivize people to always, if you want to do that, this is a framework. These are the rules that you follow, right? So we gave process. So you can do a component if you want to. You can do anything. However, that's a process. That's a review process. So as long as you have a review process, you are able to make sure the quality you expect is there, and they need to listen to that, right? And after the QA, we also run some custom plugins that can easily catch anything that are not, if tokens are disconnected or some patterns want to be followed. You can run a plugin to do that. But usually I'm like, stay away from my files. But you can automate the process, and with now they're going to be introduced the Figma where you can edit nodes. That's what I would be careful with. People can change things and it's fine, but if you put AI, just make sure that consistency is still there because of hallucinations.
Can I just check when you say at what point do you invite designers? So where would you say are you in that journey right now? You just have a component library which is engineering, came from engineering, or what's
Yeah, so I mean, we've got a kind of a loose relationship between Figma and the code, but what I'm trying to do is bring in some of the principles around, when a button should be used, what button should be used in the right, in the right place. Why is the spacing like it is? I think a lot of the time when developers are just following the Figma, they can lose things because they're copying numbers from Figma to the other. And if they understand the thought process, it means that it's not just copying, they're actually kind of, embedded in the thinking.
Yeah, so that's a successful story. We remove everything that's numbers. That's not a thing. Designers, engineers speak token language. That's no misunderstanding. They don't understand 16, 32, 48. That doesn't exist. What is this? This is a medium token. And we have a system that transforms the tokens into actual consumables and the final product. So what they connect at the engineering side and the design side is the same information. So we remove that friction. No numbers, nothing. What's this token? That's the right question.
So I want to bring in you two here, obviously, because you're talking about the collaboration, design engineering. So how would you guys solve that problem?
Yeah, I think it's very similar to what Raul said in sense of tokens. And so the design system, we have both engineers and designers, of course. When we create a component in Figma, the engineer would take the token and then uses encode because we have that sync, which we use via Token Studio. So I think tokens is a very powerful agent in order to help reduce that discrepancies between what's in Figma and then what comes out live.
And Vanessa, with your experience of bringing it all together, how would you approach a problem like this? Are you not hearing us properly? Sorry, Victoria, can we get from the V room? Apparently they can't hear us properly on the microphones.
I would start with some goals. So come up with some goals and some visions, a vision of where you want to get to, and start small, because it could be similar to what Mary mentioned in her presentation. They started with literally buttons. So start with a small kind of component, work on that end to end, and then you'll learn some lessons through that journey and then build on those lessons. So really just the smallest thing, whether it's typography, color is always annoying one, right? There's always variations. So like color, buttons, something really, really basic, but something that there's always issues with, and create a process, go through that process, but then reflect on that process and see how it's worked and how it hasn't, and then adapt, and then slowly like build upon that. That's how I would approach it.
I think also setting that process up together as well.
Yeah,
to kind of
exactly.
like design and engineer. It's like what is important to you, for you to be able to understand this. What do you need from us?
Yeah.
So you kind of are clear on the, as you were talking earlier, like what language do you need to speak? What is the stuff that you need to show? So sounds like you're a very interesting point in their journey.
Something actually interesting about that, like that, just a small comment. The CEO from Token Studio has a very interesting T-shirt, and it's like, I don't speak English, I speak tokens. So you should look at that.
Brilliant. Do we have any other in the room questions? Don't worry if you don't, I got plenty. Okay, in that case, let's move over to one of many here. So when you guys, this is for Mary. So the biggest migration pain points, what did you say that they were, and how did you kind of like prioritize what to fix?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. So when we began the migration, we realized that there's loads of legacy codes and lots of customization. So then we now had to like come back and then start looking at pages, one page after the other, to try to ensure that we are doing correct mapping from what is there, what was there currently to what we wanted it to be. So I think that was like the main pain point, but it was also a very good lesson point for us to be able to understand the true state of our system, and then going forward, if we want to have a migration, take those lessons in and do things in a more efficient way.
Just out of curiosity, so when you at the beginning of your talk, you were saying that it sort of started off as an engineering-led system,
Yeah.
and when that migration or change was happening, did you meet any resistance at all, or were everyone like, "Yay, this sounds exciting," or "No, what's going to happen now"? Like, how was that?
Yeah, I think it was more of the format and the latter, in the sense that, so the way we were working before, being like an design system that had only engineers on the team, they would outsource design support from designers in the product areas when they are available. So of course, that's not like the fastest way to work and not the easiest way. So when design support is coming, it's like, yay, let's go, let's do this. And also one thing that also helped is that the team worked closely together. So design and engineers as one team. And we also have a product manager, she's here. So we work together and then push stuff out. So it's not like we are creating designs in one place and then engineering in another place. So that proximity, yeah, also helped us.
We actually have a question about the collaboration between designers and engineers, specifically system as engineers. But what would all of you actually? How would you say is the best way for designers to collaborate with engineers or system engineers? But let's do engineers general. Let's start with you. And so, what do you say is the best way to collaborate?
I mean, I'm a bit old school, so I do love a sketching session or just pen and paper, going through the ideas. I think when I was designing back in the day, I basically would just bring my sketches to an engineer and be like, this is what I'm thinking, what do you think? And almost just brainstorm with them. So spend less time with designers, more time with engineers. Because I think one of the things, an engineer will never draw anything that they can't build or that's not possible. And also there's times when they're thinking in a completely different way to your thinking. So they'll come up with something that you haven't thought about. And I think that comes from having those conversations and that kind of collaboration. And I don't think anything can replace just sitting down or being on a call and just collaborating and sharing your screen with them. So that's basically what I do. Just have a conversation.
Have a conversation, big person. And for you guys, how do you find the best collaboration? What works best?
Yeah, I would always say, because at the end of the day, we have the same goal. But no matter the language you speak, design or engineers, so involve engineers early on in the process, understand their perspective of the problem, are there any limitations? So that way we are carrying each other on the journey, and it's not like after the design has been made and we are handing over. So we try to not use the word handover, so we work together. Yeah.
And as an engineer, how do you want designers to collaborate with you?
So I learned that there's a small word that actually suits well, that like I learned respect between understand your area, understand what they do. So as long as you respect the other ones and you do those sessions and you understand the limitation, that's the way to go. And always forget the no word. It's not like this is impossible, I cannot do this. No. When you go to discussions like how we can make this happen, right? Maybe the technology is not there. Maybe it's already there, but like, no. Sometimes this works, sometimes this doesn't work. Like respecting the platform, respecting each other, boundaries, actually is what makes the communication, everything works well.
Excellent. Before we move on, I'm just checking again. Feel free to ask live questions. Okay, the brave people have left the room. That's all right. That's why we have this one. That's absolutely fine. So want to talk a little bit about guardrails. So someone asked here about guardrails, and again, this is actually a question for all of you, I would say. So what kind of guardrails, such as acceptance criteria, accessibility checks, kind of keeps a brand consistent? Obviously, we know there's a very good collaboration between brand and design systems you mentioned as well, but kind of what would we say are the guardrails that keep the brand consistent?
That's for me.
Let's start with you.
Okay. I would say that going back to the design guidelines, and when we say design guidelines, it provides like do's and don'ts, what are like the best practices, what are like the edge cases that we could have, and what to do where there is an edge case. And if there's a scenario where the guidelines does not work for you, come back to us, discuss it. And then if we make a decision outside what's already written, then that's then documented rather, to help future iterations that we make. So yeah, that's.
And Vanessa, what's your take on this?
I don't know. I think personally, I like to bring it up to what are the principles of the brand, right? What are we trying to communicate? And referring back to that essentially, because I think in terms of like, if we look at technology and media, it's always changing. And you always have to adapt the brand for different types of media that you have to work with. So I think it's really understanding what the essence is of that brand and how you can apply it to different aspects. So is it the typography that makes the brand? Is it the colors that make the brand? And how can you have that thread throughout? I think also as designers, we're always thinking about that end user as well, right? So, and sometimes, I don't know about you, but I've always had conversations where you have that tension between marketing, who always all about the brand, but also you have the functionality of the page or the feature, and there's always that kind of tension. So you have to kind of work out work out that tension between the two.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. I think it's. I was just talking to someone literally just in the break earlier about how brand is often the Trojan horse that you piggyback on to get the design system started, and then kind of like how do you see the difference between brand and marketing, and then it's sort of like the marketing side versus the product. Yeah, there's definitely some tension there. Yeah. It's something that you, Raul, has ever come across, or in that case, how do you kind of solve that?
I'm an engineer. You're asking a hard question.
that's the way to solve it.
I could say that whatever you see in the design files is a source of truth, and I build constraints around it. So if customization does not exist, for you to be able to do something, you have to break the compiler, because I would not allow it. But that's it. It's like, I'm an engineer, you're asking the wrong question.
Okay. I've actually got a good follow-up question, you being an engineer. So this is actually a great question. It's a great segue here. So given the low numbers of engineers in the room, that's not me saying that, by the way, just want to point that out. Given the low number of engineers in the room, what's your advice, Raul, to evangelize the value of design system to engineers as a contributor?
I don't think we got to a time that it doesn't need much. You just need 2 letters, AI, right? So if you need to build a very strong foundation to be able to scale the systems as fast as you can. So to sell someone that idea, it's pretty much like you want to play with the shiny toys. That's it. They want to learn constraints. They want to learn all these systems interconnected. That's the opportunity. And how you sell that to the business is simple, right? Everyone wants to be the Airbnb for design. Like it's the app that everyone wants to work with, but how do you get that stage? More important, how do you get to that stage, but in an automated process? How you get ahead of them? And that's the one. You sell these to them, and you get the engineers that believe in the same goals. There's a lot of engineers from there that love design, but wants to understand how to make the contribution. It's just properly guide them and understand that this is the field that they have to play. That's what you need to learn.
Excellent. Good. Going to go back to the guild for a little bit. And again, we got sometimes the guild doesn't always get along. There might be disagreement. Yeah. How do you guys solve that disagreement? Like, who breaks the ties, and how do you do that?
There's no disagreements. We always agree.
There is no what?
There is no disagreements. We always agree.
Okay, note. Okay, someone makes a decision. who is the final
Yeah,
sayer?
that was a joke. So,
I mean, do you know what? It might be an efficient way of doing it.
yeah. So I think that goes back to like the guidelines that we create. What does this say about our position? And at the point of creating the guidelines, it's also being shared across. So it's not something that the design system is just working around. People review it, we get feedback, and then we reiterate. So if we get to a point where we do not agree, of course, there's like design manager tricky or whoever is there to kind of mediate, understand both sides. And is it a matter of they're just like very different opinions that we can merge, or is it a matter of just one that is more urgent than the other? So depending on the use case, we can then make a decision and move forward.
Challenge to keep it to the metrics and the facts and the data rather than kind of getting personal on who's in charge.
Yeah.
Do you want to add anything to that?
No, she
No?
said it. So
There you go. I do have a question for you. I'm jumping here a little bit, but we talked a little bit about marketing earlier. So Vanessa, where is the start to bridge that gap you were talking about, other users apart from designers and engineers? So where to start to bridge the gap between the design system team and what we mentioned earlier, the marketing and then the content team? Like, how do we bridge that gap that we said sometimes there can be a bit of a schism in between? I'm not sure.
I think the first thing is to start small, right? So if you do not have any of these connections, start with, like I said, just having a conversation. I think the first thing you want to understand is what are their challenges? What are they kind of struggling with? What are their goals maybe for a quarter or next year or their vision? And then almost just take that away. So I'd say go on a fact-finding mission first, then take that away and kind of work out like, how can you solve this with your team, or how can you solve this with design system? And sometimes it's a piece of documentation, or sometimes it's like, actually we can't help them, but this area there's probably a really big opportunity. Sometimes it could also be just facilitating a workshop as well sometimes, right? So I think it's just almost thinking creatively how you can help them and what those opportunities are. And then all you need is that one kind of in. It doesn't necessarily need to be this massive project or this massive thing. It could just be, oh, we can introduce you to the design system, or we can introduce you to a certain way of thinking, and that will really help you do X. Or if we created this into a toolkit, actually it would really help you for your Christmas campaign or something. Because we know that Christmas is coming up and they're thinking about it, right? So it's thinking creatively and thinking about what's on their roadmap and what are they planning for, and working out how you can help the teams.
Yeah, I agree. I think sometimes we also forget that we all know, well, most of us, can probably describe what a design system is, but actually the other consumers we were talking about, the other entities, the other functions, they might not have a clue what it means. Yeah. So it's a good starting point to be given actually just a quick introduction 101 to what is the design system, and then focus, as you say, like less on what it is for me as a designer or as an engineer, and more on how is it going to help you in what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I'm still doing webinars on what is UX. So
it doesn't stop. It's never going to stop. You're always going to teach someone what it is.
Exactly. So you have to do the basics sometimes. And it's kind of, again, working out what their education level is and what their understanding is. And you might just have to create that baseline of, we're just going to tell you about the design system. We're just going to introduce it to you. But here's a few points of how we can help you.
Yeah. And
then keep that conversation kind of going as much as you can.
I always find like it's interesting because you wanna get to know other people in an organization. My thing that I do is like I always when we start working with someone, I always try to find out who is the person who's gonna cause me the most trouble. Like, who does not want me in this room?
Yeah.
And then that person is the person I spend most of my energy on.
Oh yeah, you take them for coffee.
You're gonna take them for coffee. You're gonna get to know them. You're gonna get that. Like, because if you win that person over, you're done.
Yeah, even little things. If you know they've got a dog or something and they like golf, like just ask them those questions and bring that kind of I don't know, cordial.
Yeah, exactly. Find out
essence.
who hurt them.
Yeah.
Who hurt you? It's like, you know, it's,
Tell me your trauma.
exactly. And, you know, it's that therapeutic thing that we were talking about earlier. Okay, any other questions? Yes, we have a question in the room. Can we get a microphone over here, please? This gentleman, yes.
I had 2 questions, if that's okay. Yeah.
Sorry?
I had 2 questions.
2 questions. I
Yeah.
thought you said 3 there. I was like, wow, we're pushing it. 2, go for it.
Could go to 3. Question for Rahul first. You talk about AI, and you know we're looking at MCP servers, we're looking at Figma to code, etc. And as you start vibe coding, I guess the question becomes, what is the source of truth where there's multiple sort of merges into the main, and then everyone's got their own version. So in your opinion, what is actually becoming the source of truth in the future?
So, tricky one. The source of truth is always going to be your design. That doesn't change. It's what the perception that you should have is like where the extra context come from, right? Because your design lives there in the file, your token still lives there. But the additional context that AI needs to reproduce something, it lives elsewhere. It might come to a point where it still lives on Figma or not, for instance, but it's documentation you're going to host on a third party, right? So if you need more information, design rules, you also host on a third party. What you could do, however, is concentrate all that information in a single MCP where you control the output. So all your source of truth is controlled by you, by your team. So they own the information. So the only thing that AI does and engineers is to query your own source of truth. So you become a tool provider. So what that one on top of your, already a lot of tasks. So you become tool provider that provides the entry point for every single system to connect. But majority of things still lives in your design file.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. This question for Vanessa. When you have a lot of senior stakeholders have an eye on the design system, so they're actually backing it for once. And from their point of view, they're not thinking about rebrands as much. They need to think about the bigger picture, about what's going to take them out in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
So it might be, something that's major changes that they need to make. But for the teams that are really in the car seat right now, they need to focus on the task to actually get the foundations right so they can get that vision set. How would you go about managing almost how they describe the macro vision versus the micro vision? That makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. I think one of the key things, and I like to do in my teams, is almost create a North Star design. So think beyond what's happening now. Think about how like you said, the design system is almost going to evolve. And what I like to do with that is get that in the hands of users as well and get that data behind it. So you're validating almost what could happen in the future. And then once you've got something like that, you can almost reverse engineer it, right? And I think one of the things with design systems is always feels like this massive task. So it's almost like, how can you take those slices once you've kind of validated it and start slowly feeding that into the design system? And again, you might want to start with some small bits, but you want to start with those small bits, validate it, get some data behind it, and then keep iterating on it. So that's my approach.
Excellent. Okay, so I've got wild waves in the back. That I know what that means. But I'm going to ask 2 very quick fire questions. They are all obviously around AI because we can't do an event these days without talking about AI. And I'm glad someone mentioned vibe coding as well because I was waiting for that to happen. I love that. Raul, you said AI can do a lot of things that the UA engineer does. How scared are you from a scale from 1 to 10?
I don't let my AI to touch my components at all, like at a raw level. So only consume. So scared of like my job being replaced by AI. 4.
4. Okay, you heard it here. 4. Okay, and then the last one, which is kind of a brilliant one, which is So the AI, how long before it can do everything? Because I am ready to retire. So on that note, we're going to retire this Q&A. I'm sorry that we didn't have time to do more. I really appreciate all your questions. Really fantastic. Massive thanks to the three of you. You are free to come upstairs. I'm going to let you to get off. I'm going to do a quick wrap up. So before we go, I want to say a massive thank you. I want to say thank you to the to Tricky and FT team for hosting us at this amazing. Thank you so much. Big applause. I want to say a huge thank you to Venessa, Raul, and Mary for their fantastic talks. Really good work, really insightful. I want to say thank you to the YLD team for always helping us and supporting us, and obviously to the YLD guys who are here this evening, and especially to Victoria and Christine, who actually make this thing happen in the background. So thank you to you guys. I'm stalling, you know. And then also I want to say thank you to all of you for coming this evening, because obviously without the community, we would be nothing. And without being nothing, I would also like you to draw your attention to this fantastic QR code that just appeared just on time for those of you who like to support us and vote for nominated the best event. Okay, so a couple of big announcements before I go. This is super exciting. If anyone is in Paris on the 8th of October, do please come and join us. We are doing Design System Paris. Ooh la la, some people might say. Not French people, obviously. But it's going to be amazing. We're super excited to take Design System to Europe. Hopefully one of many. Yes, you can sign up to that if you happen to be there, or if you have friends or network in the Parisian French community. Why not let them take part of this amazing experience and tell them how fantastic this is? And also maybe send them the link on how brilliant you can vote for this system. Always plugging. For those of you who don't know, we also have a sister community, React.js Girls. I saw some people from here this evening that's actually been to React.js Girls. I've been hosting React.js Girls. I've been talking to React.js Girls. This is not just for girls or women. This is a React engineering community. So anyone who is interested in that, I would encourage you to sign up to the grand finale. We are going to sunset this community, but we got an amazing lineup. Our people are going to talk about React and engineering. And obviously, there is a relationship between design systems and, yeah, see, I'm getting the nods here. I know what I'm talking about. Brilliant. So I said earlier that it feels like it was a long time ago since we were here, or since the last DSL, and you're thinking, can I wait for the next one? Do you know what? You don't have to wait for too long, because I'm now going to announce the next one, which is going to be, I don't think that's correct. No, sorry. The next one is, I'm looking at the wrong place. The next one is on the 11th of November, but the tickets are available on the 9th of October at 12 p.m. And you might think like, why are they telling us exactly what time? Well, I will tell you why, because it's been selling out quite quickly. You know, just saying. So do put this in your calendar and make sure you sign up so we can see you at JSK, which is another fantastic venue in central London. We actually think we have someone from, yes, we do. So this is our next host. So please do come and join us there. Would lovely to see all of you. I think that's all my plugging. Yes, it is. So again, thank you so much to everybody for joining us. And for those of you who have any energy left and want to ask questions, come and join us at Yale London, which is a 4-minute walk away from here. I'm getting a wave. Okay. So it's on the screen right now. Before we go, sorry, I've forgotten something really important. Oh my God, that would have been so embarrassing. So yes, it's in. This is the bar, and this is where you go. So as soon as we're done, I would like you all to exit the building, because we have been told off otherwise. Do you know what? The service here is impeccable. Before you go, don't move. So I'll have an Oprah moment. That's really important. If anyone's ever seen Oprah, you got to look under your chair. And if you find a DSL sticker type thing, oh yeah, you better run back and check that chair, because you don't want to miss out on this one. if you found it. Oh, we have a winner. There's one over here. Pull that up. Yes, that's you. And there should be another one. That is not a sticker. That's a piece of gum. I don't take responsibility for you ruining the chair. Put that back immediately. There should be another one. Do we have? Let's, anyway, there we go. We have a second winner as well. If you go to the back, you will get a little goodie bag from the team. Thank you, everyone. See you next time. Bye-bye.